Welcome, everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about a journey that we at Citrix and my team have been on over the last couple of years in terms of figuring out what the right level of engagement is for our customers and how to really build a segmentation model. And the reason that I think this journey is interesting is we're on a really fast shift from on-prem to cloud. So we're expecting over this next year that we're going to have 5 times the number of our current customers who are currently on-premise. They're all going to shift in a tidal wave this year onto cloud. And so I've got to ramp up and build my team to be able to support that. So we've had to really think about how we're going to build the engagement and how we're going to handle that. So first, just a little bit about me. I am, as Erin said, the Director of Customer Success at Citrix. I lead a team of CSMs. And previous to that, I did the same thing at IBM, also built a team there, doing the same sort of conversion from on-premise to cloud. So I've done this a few times now. And Citrix, you may or may not have heard of it, but it's actually a fairly large company that has secure digital workspace software, so virtualization software. Sometimes it's running in the background. You may not even be aware that it's being used in your company, but we are in 99% of the Fortune 100 companies. So my team, as I said, a team of customer success managers located globally, and this is our vision, mission statement. And just a couple key things on this is that we are focused highly on customer experience, accelerating the time to value, and focused on customer and revenue retention. So those 3 things are the main focus of the team at all times. We want to make sure that the customers are getting that optimal customer experience along the way, not just revenue retention alone. So we've got 65 CSMs located around the world in centers of excellence. As we grow our top segment, we're going to start putting CSMs out in the field, but today this is where they're located. Quite a bit of experience on the team, but we're planning to double the team over the next year. So thus the need for a segmentation engagement model. Just wanted to show this to tell you about the transformation that we've done in terms of building this segmentation model. So I've been a runner for many, many years and got hurt a couple years ago and got forced into finding a new sport. So I got talked into doing cycling. And how many of you are runners out there? And how many of you are cyclists? Okay, so for those of you, if you've done this transformation, running is very simple. You just put on a pair of running shoes, shorts, and a t-shirt and go out the door and run. Cycling is nothing like that. You have to learn how to buy a bike, what the parts of a bike are, what shoes are, how to get clipped in, how to have the helmet, what are the signs that I use when I'm biking in a group, how do I tell the other people what I'm doing so that we won't hit each other. Very, very complicated, not something you do all in one day. You cannot plan that all out. You do it little bits and pieces at a time. So the same thing in determining the right level of engagement and segmentation model. You have to start out and do it in little tiny steps. So I'm not going to read these to you because I'm going to go through them one by one. But these are the steps as I look back in it and how we built our engagement model. So starting out, in our move to cloud, we like to say that we're on a crawl, walk, run move to moving to cloud. So 2 years ago in 2016, we had our first CSM for Citrix Cloud, and we were very much in that crawl mode, doing super, super high touch on each of those first customers. So our CSM, Angela, would meet with them in person, fly in, held their hand through everything. And based on that, then we started to look at what works, what doesn't work. So last year, then, we were in a walk mode. This year, we're in the run mode, fully implementing the engagement model. So based on Angela's first interactions with the customers and a couple studies that we looked at, we looked to see which tasks were the most important. So we had a study from the Corporate Executive Board, which has now been taken over by Gartner, and they showed that the first 90 days are by far the most important with new customers. Fairly evident, I know, onboarding, really, really important, but we also looked at our own data and found that if we could get customers to at least 16% active use, then those customers were much less likely to churn. It doesn't mean that we don't want to get them to 100% and grow the account. We absolutely do. But if they are not getting to that 16%, then we've got a major issue and they are very likely to churn. So we've got to get them to at least 16% in the first 90 days. So we rounded that up and made it 20%. So we call 20% meaningful active use. And that is the goal that we're always striving for. The next step is to understand your sales pipeline. So in our case, we know that we are going to have 5 times the number of accounts by the end of this year. Well, that's what the sales team says at least. So we've got a plan for that. We've got to have a hiring model to match that along the way. And then the next thing is to think about just some logical segments across your business. So in Citrix, since we've had an on-premise business for quite a while, we know who our biggest, most important customers are. We've got some, if it's a huge company with a lot of employees, then we have a special classification for those employees. Those are the ones that are our global ones at the top that we're going to put our most skilled resources on. Same thing, we've got a classification, enterprise, commercial, and then we're going to have a pooled model for the very smallest customers. So that was just sort of our first swag. Okay, we know we have to put in some kind of segments. But then you have to figure out who you're going to put on each of those segments. So we built a profile for the CSM skill levels on each of those segments. And I think this is really important too because it also gives your CSMs a career path and they know where they can start, how to get to the next level. So we have a detailed list of things that we expect them to do at each level, as well as here's the stretch, here's how you get up to the next level of skill. Here are the types of customers that you'll be starting to cover and ways for them to get to those next levels. So ranging from customer success associate through to the global CSMs on our team. And then you can see the numbers of accounts that they'll each be covering from the pooled model up through the very high touch. And I'll go through what those different segments are. So after we did that, then we started thinking, what do we want each CSM to do on each account? We know that we can't high touch every account, but we want to have a very clear methodology for what each CSM does with each one. And again, this is a detailed list. I know it's an eye chart, but I just wanted to give you a feel for how we figured out the amount of time that they would spend on each account. So the first few days, we keep them very high touch mode on every account, even the smallest accounts. Again, to that initial 90 days, getting them to that 20% meaningful active use. There is going to be a CSM working with each account, talking to them, building a success plan, talking to them about why they bought, how we're going to get them to their desired outcomes, building a plan with them. But then there's going to be a lighter touch in the smaller segments once we get them to that 20%, whereas there's going to be more tasks and more time required on the largest segments. And then we've also got event-based automated touches and time-based automated touches where we're using the tools to do some of the work. So we've got Tatango implemented, and we're going to use that to do some of those touches. We have not implemented these things yet. We're right in the process of implementing them. Next is you have to figure out how many customers each CSM can cover. So you have to look at, based on those tasks that we had in the last one, think about how much time it's going to take to do each of those tasks, and then how many customers could a CSM feasibly handle. So we've got it that our enterprise CSMs can handle approximately 15, commercial will be 30-ish, and then there's a team that will handle pooled. So the key thing on the commercial segment in the middle is, again, where I talked about the working high touch with the customers up front. And our goal is that every quarter they will get 25% of those customers to meaningful active use. And when they do that, they're really going to go into a light touch mode with those customers. The customers aren't necessarily going to know it because we will still have tech touch. They'll still be getting emails from the customer. And if we see some kind of sign, say a drop in usage, then we'll have one of the pooled CSMs reach out to them. So there still will be someone there available to work with them, available to answer their questions, but they'll be mainly focused again on the new customers. So at any one time, they'll have 30 customers that they're onboarding and getting going. They may have a lot more customers associated with their name that they have worked through the program. Again, that's like the mid-touch, our commercial customers. And then the pooled CSMs, they'll be handling the smallest customers, reaching out when they see signs of churn on those customers after the first 90 days. And then I think it's time to do a sanity check. So basically what we've done in building this is we've done a bottom-up model, right? We took all the detailed tasks, figured out the time, calculated based on our sales projections how many they could handle. But then you want to kind of do a top-down look at it. Is this reasonable? Can we afford this? And will it really scale in the way that we're thinking? And so once we did the calculations, we ended up having that each of the global CSMs, the ones that are just having a few accounts, that they would have approximately 5 customers each, total carry 5 million ACV total. Then the main enterprise CSMs are carrying 15 with 4.5 million, and then commercial 30 customers each with 1.5 million. So we had to really reduce the total portfolio they're covering because they are onboarding more in a transactional way all the time, trying to get those customers on board and going to meaningful active use. So they can't be doing as many of those for a total ACV. And then the pooled ones, they're covering sort of the masses that have been through the program and much more reactive type of mode with the customers. So based on that, we took our sales projections and calculated out quarter by quarter exactly how many people we're going to have to hire to support this model. So I'm interviewing around the globe. If you know anyone looking, please send them my way. But it's very good, and it helps the business understand where we need to be to support the business as it grows. So what are the results of what we've done? The results are this engagement model that we've created. We basically think of it as our customers coming into a funnel. So they all come into the funnel and they follow through our methodology, which is advise, implement, and manage. And get very high touch to meaningful active use, and then at that point, that's where we have the breakout by segmentation. So the less than 50K ACV with customer success associate, 50 to 350K ACV commercial, and then greater than 350K enterprise, and then I had those global CSMs just for our very, very largest accounts. So is it working? Well, results from our first 2 years are that customers who engage with us expand and renew at an average of 126%. So our renewal rate plus the upsell is 126% so far, which I think is pretty darn good, and hopefully we can continue that as we continue to scale the team up. So anyway, that was a quick run through. I just wanted to describe our transformation to get here and then make sure that I allow time for questions. So questions on how we did this?
Hi, thanks for that presentation. I was wondering how senior management, the C-suite perhaps, might say, okay, has this investment in all these staff, customer success, how has it paid off quantitatively in terms of return on investment?
Well, that's pretty much the holy grail of customer success, right? To be able to prove that. And yeah, we're trying to make sure that we can correlate that the customer outcomes that we drive in the success plans, that those correlate to revenue retention. We're still working the numbers on that, but that's our #1 goal for this year.
Can you talk a little bit about renewals, and is it different who's responsible for those? Is it the customer success person or an account exec?
We have a renewals team, but we work very closely with them. They actually sit on the same floor with us with my team in Raleigh for the Americas. And what we have is in Tatango, at 180 days out from the renewal, we have a success flow?
Correct.
Play. Pushes out to the CSMs and has them contact the renewal specialist, share information with them, do a warm handover with them, and pull them into the account for the renewal. So they're not the ones doing the paper, but they absolutely are well aware of the renewals and making sure that they're going to happen.
We have time for maybe 2 more questions, or else we're kept in for lunch.
What kind of training program do you have currently, I guess, as you're working through your model of the CSAs all the way up to the global? Did you have to implement that yourself, and do you have it within your team, or is that also part of Citrix?
We've implemented our own training program for new employees, so it's 3 weeks that we've built, and basically every new employee I've brought on, I've had them add to it and enhance it. But we're also starting to now send our teams to the sales training that we have at our corporate office. So they're going to do that in addition to our training. And that's just starting this month. So TBD on whether that works or not. And it's pretty technical sales training because our product's pretty technical.
So in regard to your commercial accounts, what percentage of time are those CSMs using, or like what percentage of accounts are on onboarding versus other activities? So how long are they working on onboarding versus other things?
Well, I would call onboarding getting them to that 20% active or meaningful active use. So that's really, in the commercial segment, that's by far the majority of their time. I'd say 80% of their time, and then 20% is answering questions or handling things for older accounts, things that come up.
So there was 1 more question over here.
I just wondered, with the career path within your CS org, if you're constantly promoting from the pool to upward and you have a technical product, what does that do to the service that you give to those pooled accounts as far as, are the CSMs capable of giving high-level service, or as soon as they get it, they move up to the next level? And what kind of strain does that also put on the manager of that team?
It's not that fast of a progression. I mean, it's a couple years in each of the levels to get there, because our enterprise CSMs, we expect to have 10 or more years of experience. So it's a bit of a journey to get there, but it does present some strain. But again, those ones are not tied to accounts. They're really working in the background, so it's not like customers going to be like, oh, you changed my CSM again. They're going to think that they have the same CSM, because we kind of keep that front commercial CSM as the face of the account, and it's just someone else is doing the work in the background.
Thank you, Joe.